So today I'm going to show you how to use data analysis and how to perform this using Microsoft Excel. So we're going to be analyzing a data set today. Let me show you this data set. So we're going to be looking at this data set, which measures how much fun that you had today on a scale of 0 to 5 versus how many hours you spent on homework today. So we're going to look at this data and see if it's correlated or not. So let's jump over to our Excel spreadsheets. All right, let's start over here. Sorry, I was working on this earlier. All right, so one thing you're gonna notice when you come into Excel is your data is probably gonna look something like this. This kind of bugs me how the text is blocked here. So you can remedy this by hovering your mouse over the line right here in between the cells. And if you double click on it, it's going to automatically space the cells out so that all of the text and all of the numbers fit inside of the cells. Now, in order to make a scatter plot, which is when we have numbers on both sides, we can just simply highlight all the data that we want, and we're going to go up to Insert, and then we can hit this button here with all the dots, recommended charts, and we're going to choose our scatter plot with no lines, because we're going to be putting the lines in ourselves. So do not put lines in there that's not the same as a best fit line, which is going to show us correlation in our R-squared value. So make sure that you choose the one with just the dots and nothing else on it. Okay, so something you're going to notice about this graph is that we've got all these numbers here on the vertical and the horizontal line, but it doesn't tell us anything about those numbers. It doesn't have our titles on here, so we need to add those. So if you go up to Add Chart Elements, we can go to Axis Titles and click on Primary Horizontal. That's going to give us a space to do that. Axis Titles, Primary Vertical, it's going to give us a space to do that now. And you can simply just double click on this and it's going to highlight the text for you. And so you can type in what this is. This is from 0 to 6. So this is how much fun you had today. Scale of 0 to 5. All right, and this up here is how many hours you spent on homework. So I need to highlight this. Oh goodness. Hours spent on homework. Okay. And we might want to rename this title since it just arbitrarily chooses text. So hours spent on homework versus how much fun you had today. All right. Great, so let's take a look at this. Now you'll notice that this text is kind of small. You can change the size of this text anytime you want. You can just simply click on it, and if this doesn't pop up, you can, let's see, right click on a Mac. I think it's, let's see, on a Mac it's click with 2 fingers. So you can click with 2 fingers on it, and you can go to Format Access, and it's going to give you all these options over here. Text options. We need format actually, so let's go back to home. And you can just simply change that right here. So you can change this to a larger font size. I'm going to change everything to 14 so I can see it, because this is just really small. Okay. Oftentimes in Excel, if you want to change something, you can simply click with 2 fingers on it and bring up this menu over here, and it will give you some kind of option that you might need. All right, so now we're going to add our squared value and our best fit line. We can do that by going up to our, we should be able to click on the chart. Hold on, I've got to move zoom around so that I can see my data here. It's going to be under Chart Design, which if I can get my computer to work. Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to have to stop sharing to be able to fix this. Okay, All right, let's try this again. All right, so I need to go up to, if we click here, we click on the data, it's gonna give us a chart design tab. There we go, there's our chart design tab. Okay, so we wanna go back to add chart elements, and we're going to want to add a trend line. So we're gonna put in a linear trend line. Remember we talked about linear correlation? That's what we're gonna be using here. Cool, all right, so we've got our trend line in. Now we're gonna want to add a trend line equation and an R² value. We can do that by going to add chart. Again, more trend line options once we get to trend line. And down here at the bottom on our linear line, we're gonna check the display equation on the chart, which is the equation for the line, the y equals mx plus b, if you all remember that from algebra, and display R² value on chart, which is gonna give us our correlation data, which is what we're really after here. Okay. Another way to get to this add chart element if you are on some other tab is you can simply, again, click with 2 fingers on the line itself, and it'll go to format trend line, and this thing will pop up over here on the right. So those are 2 ways to get to that menu. Now I'm gonna make this text a little bigger so that we can see it. Great. And you can see here that our R² value is very good. We've got a 0.9924 correlation, which is 99.24% correlation, which means the hours you spent on homework are highly correlated with how much fun you had today. So that is how to use Excel in order to make a graph to get your best fit equation and your R² values to show correlation. Now, I also wanted to show you really quickly what happens when we reduce the number of data that we have. So say we only had 3 data points here. All of a sudden, you see that our R² fits exactly to our data. If we delete it even down more, you see that when we do that, when we only have 2 data points, there's only one option for our line to connect those data points. Our line will always connect those data points. Our line will always have an R² value of 1, which is why it's very important when you collect data to collect more than 2. You need 3 or more data points in order to show correlation. So if I put any value back in over here, we're gonna see that that changes our R² value. Now it doesn't fit so nicely, all right? But I could go in here and I could change this value to anything I want and it would still be correlated. It's still gonna connect, all right? So what that means, like I said, is when you're doing data analysis and making experiments, in order to be able to determine your R² value, you have to have more than 2 data points. Otherwise, it's just not feasible and it doesn't mean anything. Okay. All right, so that's it for making a graph in Excel. Let me know if you have any questions.